So Zion's contract, 5 year, $197 million. His contract for the 2024-2025 season becomes fully guaranteed as long as the Pelicans don't waive him before January 7th.
Are
Do they
you
waive
are
Zion
you
and save
insinuating?
a crap ton of money?
GMLB family, welcome back to another episode of Good Morning Let's Basketball. Today we got a lot packed for you. My name is Mike Miles. That's Kevin, that's Daniel, and that's Vic. And today we're going to be talking Pelicans, we're going to be talking Rockets, and we're going to be going over a new series talking about Kevin's top 5 players. And if it goes well and you guys mess with it, we will go each host will do a top 5 player series for. We're going to test run it today. I think it'll be a fun time. But before we get into that, make sure you email us at gmlbfans@gmail.com because we're lacking emails from the fans. We need the GMLB family to stand up. We read all emails on the show. It could be basketball related, it could be like life related. We prefer it's basketball related, but we read all emails on the show. And finally, before we start, it's a sad day, fellas. One of the greatest players ever, one of my personal favorite players, Paul Millsap, recently retired. And you know what that means? It's time for a GMLB patented moment of silence. Let's give him 5, fellas. All right, before we start talking about the absolute dumpster fire that is the New Orleans Pelicans right now, we're going to just revisit our in-season tournament predictions. Fellas, do you guys even remember who you took by any chance?
I honestly have no idea. I was just looking at the list right here. When did we say this?
This was like
This was the
the
first
first
episode of
episode.
season 3, I think.
Man, I've slept a lot since then. Yeah, I do not remember this at all.
Huh.
We did like a 3, 2, 1 countdown, and we all just took a pick at once.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now I remember.
So
Yeah.
for the fans, it was Daniel took the Pacers. Current status out. They will not be returning to the finals this year. Kevin, you took the Chicago Bulls. Current status out. Out as Lonzo Ball is. Myself, current status, I took the Raptors out. We're 0 for 3 on the pod. Victor, you're the only hope left. Who'd you take, Vic?
I
Tell
said
the
I
fans who
don't
you took.
know. Dude, I overthought it and I just didn't pick anybody.
Victor Victor unfortunately withdrew his vote during the episode and decided to go with an I don't know, which means current status out. We are 0 for 4 on in-season tournament predictions. Fellas, we'll get them next year. But let's move into our first topic. Fellas, the New Orleans Pelicans are currently 5-19 after making a blockbuster trade for Dejounte Murray this offseason in exchange for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance, EJ Liddell, Cody Zeller, and 2 future first-round picks. After dealing with a multitude of injuries to their stars, including Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, and Dejounte himself, is it time to look for a new direction in the stacked Western Conference? Is the season cooked? What do you guys think? Start us off.
Think I think that trade busted the wrong block. Yeah, blow it up.
Blow
The
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely blowed up. The Pelicans a couple years back were a very good team. And ever since that season, they just have not came remotely close to what they were. And it's been kind of sad. Zion doesn't play. I mean, just point blank period. That's not even just like me being a hater. I'm not a hater of Zion. But the guy doesn't play. Who would even trade for him? And what would a team have to give up to get him is also my question. But yeah, I mean, DeJounte had some injuries this year. There was this point in time where he wasn't playing. The team's just not looking too good right now. Blowed up.
Here,
They're
here's the
not catching
thing.
up in the West.
Here's the thing I was gonna ask before we like blow it up is Zion, BI, DeJounte, and CJ have not played in a game together is this something worth waiting for and seeing if they could actually work before they trade the key pieces?
No,
Man, that's a
no.
tough one. I don't think so. I think DeJounte Murray is just like cursed, honestly, for lack of a better term. Every team the guy's gone to, it's just been a dumpster fire so far. But back to your point, Kevin, Zion Williamson, here's a fun one. Played less than 50% of his games up to this point in his NBA career and has yet to play in a playoff series. So, is it worth waiting for the core, or does Zion just not like playing basketball? Like, does he even want to be there at this point? Like, is it like
Well,
an environment thing for him?
well, if you wait for the core, you're going to be waiting an eternity because Zion doesn't play. And by the time he comes back, someone else will go down. And let's say everyone gets healthy at some point. Is that core going to like do anything? I have a hard time believing so. Especially the
Oh,
way that like Houston's looking, the way OKC's looking, all the other teams, the Warriors. It's just not a fan of this core. I never really was. When Dejounte got there, I was like, I'm not expecting too much out of this team. I'm really not.
yeah. I don't. I mean, I'm not gonna deviate too much from what you guys are saying. I really do think at its core, maybe it is time for the Pelicans to say goodbye to Zion Williamson. I don't honestly think he offers them something that they could say, okay, Zion Williamson is a bona fide superstar and we're going to win with him instead of like despite him basically, which right now I feel like it kind of seems like they have a better chance sometimes winning without him. I don't know. DeJounte Murray, I think, is really good, and I think him, like for example, I think it was like would have been Sunday's game, Monday's game, whenever it was. Him and Missy, honestly, did look really good pairing up on the court together, and like we have seen Murray play well before, so I don't know. I think like you guys said at its core, it is a Zion Williamson issue. Like, I think it's time to find somewhere else for him to go.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge piece of the reason why they're struggling is Zion can't stay healthy. But with Zion, the Pelicans are a little over 500, 101.89. But I don't think the Pelicans are in the mindset of moving away from Zion. I actually think that they decided that Zion's going to be that future piece for them, and they're going to hold it out for the long term, see where that gets them, because they're planning on getting rid of Bi. I think Bi is a free agent next season, and he is also expected to move from the team within like the next week or so once the trade starts. I think it's December 15th. And there's a lot of talks about him getting traded and Zion staying there, and hopefully that they could get the like first pick and maybe pair Cooper Flag with him.
I'm not saying that they should move on from Zion. I'm actually totally with you, Vic. I think that like keeping Zion is probably the best move for the Pelicans right now because what do you get for him? The only source I could find of like relevant trade data would be the infamous anonymous NBA executive from Hoops Hype who said he'd only consider trading one first round pick due to durability concerns. I find that kind of hard to believe. But I mean, there were a couple trades as I was looking at trade scenarios. The Pistons could give Tim Hardaway Jr., Isaiah Stewart, Jalen Duren, and a 2027 first for him. And then the only other trade I could find that was like reasonable was Jeremy Grant, Shaden Sharp, and a 2027 first if they wanted to move some core pieces for Zion. But neither of those are really like blowing my mind right now with a Zion Williamson trade. I think they're in it for the long haul with him. You might as well just bet on him at this point.
Yeah, I
I
don't
have a
like
fun
either of those
scenario.
trades.
I have a fun scenario. So Zion's contract, 5 year, $197 million. His contract for the 2024-2025 season becomes fully guaranteed as long as the Pelicans don't waive him before January 7th.
Are
Do
you
they
in,
waive
are
Zion
you
and save
insinuating?
a crap ton of money?
I mean, what's that? He still has that contract obligation to stay under a certain weight, right?
Oh, I
Hypothetically,
forgot
Yes.
about that.
I
wasn't there a
wanted
bunch of drama that he was like not under that weight,
I
like
wanted
this
to
time last year?
I really did want to touch on this because how do you guys feel? I mean, we gave like the fans at home gave so much crap to Harden, when he was coming in looking a little tubby. And this is supposedly someone that's supposed to lead a franchise that's built like Shaq after he won the championships. I don't know. He's not. That's offensive. Zion's obviously really strong
No,
and
he
really big,
is
but he's
though.
not. But he's not he doesn't scream what's the word, efficient for basketball. And that's kind of my question. Like, do you guys think that's where the issue is?
I mean, we've been talking about that from the draft though, and we've seen what he could do in terms of his movement with the weight he has. Obviously, the weight is is affecting the frequency of his injuries, but I'm in the boat where I feel like it's not all weight at this point. I feel like it's actual just like past injuries creeping back. Like he's just getting weaker. His injuries are making him less durable over time, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at some of Zion's highlights when he was in college, he was definitely a little bit slimmer when he was at Duke. And the only time he missed is when he blew through his freaking shoe against UNC. That was the only time that he missed. And I mean, I think everyone's seen Zion's college highlight tape. I mean, it doesn't even look real. The dude is just flying all over the place. I don't know if he'll ever get back down to that weight because NBA Zion, if you like look at a picture of NBA Zion and college Zion, it's like he's just way pudgier. It's kind of bad. And he can't fly like he used to. The weight, yeah, I think definitely plays into that, but also just like the injuries that have been stacking up over time. If I'm being completely honest, I don't even know what injury is holding him back right now.
It's his
It's
hamstring.
a yeah, left hamstring,
And not
and
to mention,
there's no timetable for his return
Those
to.
those lurk.
and not to mention too, Brandon Ingram just got announced with a low grade ankle sprain. So I haven't seen a team as injured as this by the Lord Jesus. So they're playing with 2K simulated players out there. But with the Brandon Ingram thing, I wanted to get back to is because I found some possible trade scenarios with him because that is a guy who's probably going to get likely moved. I also think that they should move CJ McCollum as well. See what they could get for him. He has a $33 million contract. But with the Brandon Ingram trade, here was one with the Warriors. The Pelicans would get Andrew Wiggins, Pods, a 2026 first round pick, and the Warriors would get Brandon Ingram.
I hate that. I'm not gonna lie. I
Why do you hate that?
feel like Wiggins is like not that far off from Ingram. I'm gonna be honest.
He's
Pods has a
having the
lot
best
of
season right
potential
now.
too. Yeah, I
That's
I I
fair.
don't like that personally. That's just me though.
And then the last trade I could find that I thought was decent, they had a Jimmy Butler one, but honestly, I thought it was kind of trash and just came out today that his destination wasn't the Pelicans, and I don't blame him. So, uh, the Pelicans could get Walker Kessler, and the Jazz would receive Javante Green, Jalen Noel, Arlo, I cannot, Malkovich, a 2026 first round pick swap, and a 2027 first round pick.
For Walker Kessler.
For
Yeah.
Walker Kessler,
Yep.
did you say that right? All of
Yep.
that for Walker Kessler?
Yep.
He doesn't even start.
Ah,
He doesn't start some games. What?
they must he must have held like a private training session with them or something. That is a lot for Walker freaking Kessler.
I
If
know
it
they don't
was
have a
like
center, but damn, like what?
if you would have said Lowry Markkinen, sure, whatever.
Hmm.
Like that makes a little bit more sense because he's like been an all-star before. But all that for Walker Kessler is it's kind of criminal.
That's what? How does that even like, bro? Huh? Does that even like salary wise? Does that even like match up? Like, what? How does that
Pretty
even
sure I found this on I can't remember what the website was.
NBA Centel?
It was fadeaway world.
Damn. Well, I guess if Walker Kessler's that guy, Walker Kessler's that guy. Trade the franchise player for him. Um, let's talk Dejounte though for a second
Damn
here.
near it sounds like it.
I just want to point out Dejounte hasn't played a lot, but in 8 games, he's got 16, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. He's 33% field goal percentage and 26% from three. So he's not shooting it well. Probably a conditioning thing. Um, he's been under the spotlight, man. His usage rate is the highest it's ever been. It is a small sample size, but all these injuries, man, I feel like they're hurting his stock too. I'm not saying they're gonna give up on Dejounte because they just got him, but like hypothetically, if they were to plug him into a trade, this season is not helping his value so far. And it is a small sample size, but he's definitely regressed a bit.
Yeah, I mean, not hard to disagree there. What sucks about Dejounte is I felt like all the teams he's been traded to has just been like not great scenarios. Like when he was on San Antonio, he was very good for them. Granted, they were trash, but he was very, very good player for San Antonio. And then
He's an all-star.
I feel like he hasn't been dealt to the right scenarios. If he's able to stay consistent on the court, I'd say over the course of the season, preferably before the trade deadline, they could package him. And if he shows some improvement. But right now, they should probably just leave his name out and definitely not give up on him because they traded some key pieces away, especially one of them being Dyson Daniels.
You want to hear some gross shooting numbers that I pulled up today? In DeJounte's last 5 games
I'm
from
always down.
three, 1 for 7, 3 for 8, 1 for 7, 0 for 6, 2 for 4. Last one wasn't horrible. There's some ugly shooting numbers, bro.
He's,
I'm not gonna lie.
He's doing his best Mikal Bridges preseason impression right now.
Is he still that guy on defense, you think? DeJounte Murray, is he? I don't have his defensive rating pulled up. I could grab it here in a sec, but like, do you think he's that guy still?
He just started coming back from that injury. I feel like it's a really tough sample size to say right now.
It is, but I will say in that game that they played against the Spurs a couple days ago, he was playing well defensively. He had like 3 steals on like back-to-back possessions or just like pokes where he was obviously contesting the play. So, and
Well, I'm
when
just.
Wemby was coming out, he actually got a strip on Wemby too, which was cool.
I was gonna say, I mean, he objectively took a step back on defense in the Atlanta days, so we kind of do have a sample size of him. Maybe
thought you were
not
talking
for the
about this season.
Pelicans. No, just like in general. Like, is he still the defensive anchor that he was on the Spurs? Like that just backcourt point of attack defender. Like, is he that guy still? What do you guys think?
I'm starting to wonder if he was ever that guy because he's playing under Pop. And, that's what Pop does to players. I
That's a
mean,
good
I think he's still a very solid defender, but where he was a couple of years back in San Antonio, no, I don't think he's at that point anymore. But then again, I haven't watched too much DeJounte Murray basketball this season. So I would have to ask me again in a week.
I will.
I would say depending on how long Zion is out too, and just in general, depending on how long DeJounte is with this Pelicans team, I think you'll see him become a little bit more of an offensive minded player, personally.
Yeah, especially if you're doing more on the offensive end, it's going to be a lot tougher to want to play defense. And especially since you said his usage rate is higher this season, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth too much because it is just 8 games and
Mhm.
everyone's hurt, but yeah, it's the highest it's ever been by far.
Yeah, for sure. He's not going to be back into those days that he was a really good defender. So
I will say one thing that I was like looking into is that every name that got traded away from the Pelicans got slightly better, not much, but slightly better. And then DeJounte Murray has like a 7 point average decrease the moment he steps foot on a Pelicans court.
It's a good point. It's a good point. Final concerns for the Pelicans, fellas.
It's
Nothing.
over. Get rid of Zion.
The radical
He-
approach. Just get rid of him.
Yeah.
I would say they have some young talent. Brandon Boston's been playing decent. Jordan Hawkins is decent. Still got Trey Murphy and Herb. Love Herb.
True.
You guys know that. So
We'll find out
focusing
later.
on
Will we find out later in this episode how much you love Herb?
yeah, you'll hear something. You'll
Yeah, we might hear some.
you'll get to it. But yeah, they have solid young pieces right now. Giving away Dyson Daniels does suck, but they still do have some solid pieces. I would like to see them prioritize that than to make this team a contender because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd be damned if anyone saw Dyson Daniels coming. I feel like that was a fair trade, like at the time. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Well,
It's
the
fair, but it
defense was
just
there.
sucks.
The defense was there, yes, but like to this level, it was not. To what it is now, it was not.
Yeah, one thing before we pivot, because I have it here in my notes and I wanted to say it, which is that I personally think Zion would be more productive in the NBA if he was a secondary, not a second, no, I mean a secondary option. I mean, in the event where the Pelicans keep him, they set up a Chris Paul and Wemby situation, and Zion is Chris Paul. All right, that's it.
Zion,
Is Chris
Chris
Paul even the
Paul.
second option on the Spurs?
No,
Is-
he's not, but he's like
I get what you
he
mean,
has to
though.
pair well with Wemby, yeah.
Yeah, I get what you
And
mean.
also I just mean that Zion should be a secondary, but we can move on. That's all I want to say.
When you mean second option though, not
I
like
do.
off the bench. Okay,
Yeah, no.
I
Yeah,
just want to clear that up before
Well,
someone
yeah.
someone says something. We got a fun one on the docket today. One of my personal favorite teams to watch, the Houston Rockets. All right. The Houston Rockets are off to a hot start. They currently sit at fourth in a stacked Western Conference. There's a lot of reasons for their success this season, but how far can this team go? With promising young pieces, a defensive-minded head coach in Ime Udoka, and with stars Sengun and Jalen Green, can the Houston Rockets win a playoff series this year? We've seen a lot of good regular season teams before, but is this team built for the playoffs? Fellas, what do you think? Can they win a first-round series?
I think they could. I know me me being the Nostradamus that I am, predicting the Mavericks possibly making the finals last year.
That
Preseason
was crazy.
prediction this year. Preseason prediction with this year was Rockets being sixth seed, fifth seed. And at the start of the season, I overachieved on that take heavily because they were like second at one point. I still do think they will finish fifth or sixth simply because their offense isn't where it needs to be. They have a lack of shot creating. With Sengun being their best player, I would say he's not much of a shot creator, which I feel like in return they have to rely on Fred VanVleet,
Mm-hmm.
which to me isn't super ideal to rely on him as like your shot creating guy. As good
I
as he
agree with
is,
you. I
as
agree
good
with
as he
you.
is,
Fred overshoots at times from what I've seen from Rockets games. I mean, there's games where he's just forcing up shots as the vet on the team. So I definitely agree with you on that.
I don't think this team is ready yet for a deep playoff run. I think they'll put whoever they're playing against the first round. I think they could get 2 games out of them, maybe push it to 7. But I don't think they'll win the first round. I do really like this team. Great defense, but like Kevin said, with the shooting, they're just very inconsistent from behind the arc. They're 26th in the NBA with 3-point percentage made as a team at 33%. They're 16th in 3-point attempts. They're not really getting that many shots behind the arc. That's going to be tough when you're playing against teams who are getting those threes and making a lot more than them. Another thing too is what I saw that I liked was like what Ime's mindset towards this team. With Sengun, he told them, don't get the European out of your game, play through stuff, stop crying after fouls and misses. Thought that was pretty funny.
It's almost
Yeah,
like Joe Mazzulla-esque.
I am very in agreement with Victor on the whole 2-win thing. I think the Rockets have the most potential to win like 2 or 3 games at the most in that first playoff series. But when I look at the conference standings, I mean, every year since I would say like I don't even know since probably maybe the KD from Nets, I don't know. But point is, this Western Conference is stacked with hungry teams that have missed out on potential opportunities to make the finals and to have like a really good run. Thunder is hungry. Grizzlies are hungry. You know, every seeded team on this list is a team that will come into that Houston Rockets playoff series and I think just dominate in terms of experience and having that veteran presence of saying you don't get to just come in here and run through the playoffs. That's not how it goes ever for a team. But they're a strong
Yeah,
team and wait till next year because they're gonna roll off that momentum and come back hot.
I'm with you on that. Kevin, I got a question for you, but I'm going to put a pin in that just for a second because I did want to roll back to what Victor was saying about the 3-point shooting. Um, I kind of like just had like a moment of realization the other day watching the Rockets that like Jabari Smith Jr., bro, was so raw at Auburn. This guy was almost the first pick over Paolo and Chet. And he's just like a, dare I say, like just like a kind of a pretty good role player. Like I feel like they have not tapped into his potential. And it kind of goes along with what Victor was saying about the 3-point shooting. Is like this guy is known to like have a good shot. If you've ever seen him shoot it, it's a line drive at the rim. Maybe he can put some arc on it, but only shooting 35% this year, regressed by a couple percent so far this year on the same attempts. So we're not even seeing him shoot the ball more. He's like there really hasn't been improvement in his game. And that's like the one player on the team where I think if he could figure it out, like and take the step, they could be extremely dangerous, like almost like X factor for a series, like kind of what we saw with PJ Washington on the Mavericks. I think that Jabari Smith can play that same exact role and make that impact, but so far we just haven't seen him take the step. So the question I had for you, Kevin, though, is you said that you think they could win, but they'd finish 5 or 6 seed. So they're playing like top seeded teams in the West. Like that's like the Thunder. Like hypothetically, who do we think is going to finish top four? You got the Thunder, probably the Nuggets if they could make it up there. Maybe not. Maybe that's a
I'm gonna
stretch.
I'm gonna say 5 for Nuggets.
Mavericks, probably the Mavericks will be up there. Like they're playing good teams.
Grizzlies.
Okay. Like even like if the Timberwolves figure it out, they could be up there. Just judging solely off what we saw last year. But like these are good experienced teams. So, um, what do you think, Kev? You think they could still win with one of those teams up there?
I'm willing to bet that over like the Grizzlies that they would play in a series. I feel like they could beat the Grizzlies because they're pretty good at defense and Triple J cannot rebound, which is sad. And I feel like they have a really big advantage for them there. Could face Denver too, because Denver's only 2 games behind from the second seed in the West. They're
Mhm.
starting to figure it out a little bit more. Russ is looking pretty good for Denver. So I think that they will get up there. If they do play Denver, don't believe they beat them. I don't believe they beat Dallas. I think they could possibly beat Golden State if they play super, super well. And I think they could very well beat Memphis in a playoff series.
I agree.
I was just gonna say, am I crazy for saying that? Like, I feel like if they were to get that matchup against the Warriors, like that's one of the best situations that they could be in. And
Oh,
like, I feel like the Rockets actually, I would almost change my answer. Warriors versus Rockets, a first round playoff series. I might bet on the Rock. I mean, I shouldn't bet on off of Curry, but
for a team that lacks creation and for the Rockets who are second in defense right now, and they just all compete, play hard. Dylan Brooks is one of the leaders in defensive rating this season. Like, I think just the fact that Golden State doesn't have like on ball creators, like that team's gonna get clamped. Obviously, you can't stop Curry, but Wiggins will be like stoppable. Like you're not playing a team that has like Fox, Sabonis, and DeRozan, who are just three ball creators. That's just the first step or first team that came to my mind. But I'd also agree. Like I'd take the Rockets in a series like that, despite Golden State's success so far.
One thing that kind of scares me about the Rockets' future, not trying to look too far ahead here, but they have. I thought of this question, Miles, when you started talking about Jabari Smith and how he kind of hasn't tapped in yet. But the Rockets have a lot of young pieces. They have Amen, they have Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason now, who looks like a beast on defense, Shingun.
Reed
They're going to
Shepard,
have to
Cam
pay all these
Whitmore.
guys at some point.
True.
Reed Shepard came more. I forget about those two. They're going to have to pay all these guys at some point. There's no way we're going to be able to keep this whole squad here. I feel like if they were to let someone walk or let someone go, I might let Jabari go, depending on what his development looks like over the course of the next season or two. Because the other guys just play so good, like within their roles. I feel like you could almost replace Jabari a little bit better and a little easier than the other guys.
That's true. And by no means has he peaked, but from what we've seen, this may just not be the situation for him to truly thrive. I think he's the most valuable piece given he's what 6'11", can stretch the floor, stretch big, um, top draft pick, got the intangibles. Like he definitely has the most value, and maybe this just isn't his situation. So I think that's a great take. I think he a lot of teams would foam at the mouth in getting him. Hopefully the Celtics. That would be sick.
I could see them moving away from Fred after his contract's up as well. Just get some of those younger guards in the rotation after if they develop for a couple years.
One thing I wanted to point out is Sengun and Amen Thompson specifically. This stat I got from Alex Hoops, so shout out him. But Sengun and Thompson have the highest net rating as an NBA duo of all players with 300 plus minutes this season, which is interesting. I think the narrative here is Sengun has taken a step as a rim protector. The stats aren't as favorable towards that because I tried to look at his block percentage to see like what it was all about. Um, weren't super favorable. He's taken a step, but it's pretty marginal. But I think the stat stands out. Like that's one of the best duos both ways on the floor in the NBA. Actually, that is the best duo in that aspect. So definitely taking a step there with Amen Thompson. He had 22 the other night, played really well. So like to
You
see
know
that.
what? You know what? Shout out Dylan Brooks, man. One of the
True.
very few NBA players that got paid and then got better. Like I'm gonna give him his flowers for that because he's big for that team. But just really quick, I the Jabari Smith situation, I was just gonna say because that's a callback from a little bit earlier, but um, yeah, I think with that Rockets team, it just speaks to how much potential they have and how high their ceiling really can be when they have that many young guys that even like you said, Miles, they're quote unquote that secret nuke basically that they have going under the radar because guys like Jalen Green and guys like Sengun are really, really coming into their own. So I think that Rockets team is destined for success. They're gonna be hot
And
this
not
Yeah.
year,
to
probably not, but
and not to mention how scary they are on defense with like Dylan Brooks, the Terror twins off the bench, Amen and Terry Eason, just of insane defensively. You mentioned Miles, they have the best defense in the NBA right now. And that's because of
Second best.
second best
Hmm.
because of
Second best.
Ime. And dude, like that's just not like something you want to go up against every night.
Yeah.
It's
I
gonna be
was
tough playing against them in the playoffs.
Yeah, dude. I'm just fired up. The whole season I've had this eye test narrative that Jalen Green has taken a step as a defender. And again, the stats don't give him favor, but bro, you could tell just like the effort that's being put in is way more than it was last season. Like I wish I could pull a stat and just like throw it in your face like everyone, just like I told you, but I couldn't quite find one that really sold me. So eye test wise, Jalen Green has taken a step as a defender.
He's matured quite a bit. Now they just need Shangoon to shake into that rim protector role a little bit more, and this team's going to be nice.
I was just gonna ask you guys, do you think there are any holes? Because it sounds like we've kind of just said, you know, endless potential. They sound good to go, but do you guys super early, obviously, into how
Oh,
much hope they have, but
the very first thing I opened this conversation with, lack of shot creation, having to rely on Fred VanVleet to score. That's it.
fair.
Jalen Green can create.
Right now,
Yeah, I think Jalen Green can create his own shot.
Yeah,
but to be able
100%.
to, yeah, but like to be able to like give them success on the offensive end in a playoff run. Eee.
I could see it in a series, maybe not a run. Um, one thing actually, take this how you will. One thing that stood out to me that I went and deep dive for is the Houston Rockets are actually last in assist ratio. They're dead last in the NBA, which is essentially that's the percentage of possessions that end with an assist. So it seems like actually all they're doing is isolating just by like ratio of assists. Obviously, that doesn't tell the whole story, but it does stand out because who's down there with them? The Blazers, the Sixers, the Bucks, the Hornets, and the only good team is the Mavericks. And we know that Luka's on there. So there's a lot of iso ball there too. So
Yeah,
it's an
LaMelo.
11%
interesting.
decrease in total assists to this point for this team from last year. And yeah, LaMelo, like for the Hornets, is second
Yeah.
highest in his usage rate this year. So it makes sense for him too.
hmm
Like
As a team, what's
it's
their 3-point percentage?
I said it
um
earlier. It was 33%. It's 26th in the NBA.
yeah,
How are
so
they not getting assists off of threes? That like, or well, I guess they are obviously, but that low is crazy.
Shot
if
chucking.
you told me that like this team, like if I said, do you guys think this team runs a lot in transition? You would probably say yes, right?
Hmm.
I assume.
Absolutely.
Like young guns, hungry, run in transition, get steals. It's actually not that crazy. Like you would think, because when you run in transition, you're gonna get assists. You're gonna swing to the corner. You're gonna make 2-on-1 plays. Like, but they just don't. They like don't do it as much. They're 13th in pace. Like I assume that's because of Sengun. Don't want to single like any person out, but they do like to get Sengun on the block, set up a half court set for him. But I wish they would run more. Like I think that's a pretty simple ask out of this team.
Go ahead.
I think just like that mid half court offense style of play just might be their thing. I mean, it's really hard for us to ask them to go against that, them being third in the West right now. So it's working.
It's
Maybe in the
true.
playoffs when the game gets ramped up a little bit and the OG starts sitting in a chair, locking up on defense, they probably will ramp it up a little bit.
I think it all comes down to that whole thing that I said earlier, which is like this isn't their year, but wait till next year, right? I think that's one of those things that they'll kind of inevitably have to fix a little bit is learning how to play within to their advantages, basically.
One of the things that I really liked from this conversation was when Victor, you said they might trade Fred.
No, I said let him
Another,
walk.
or yeah, sorry, that's what I meant to say. My bad. Let Fred walk, like just dump his contract, basically. But um, I will say, like as I said when we started this conversation, Fred likes to shoot them out of games occasionally. Like he has a tendency to do that. But he's taken a step back so far this season as a shooter. And a playmaker. His assists are down. His 3-point percentage is down 6% on roughly the same attempts. We know he's not the greatest defender. He's undersized. It kind of makes you reflect, though, because when they originally acquired Fred VanVleet, everyone was like, well, you just drafted Amon Thompson. You just drafted a point guard. Why would you not give him minutes? Now there's Reed Shepard on the team. There's Cam Whitmore. Like, there's these guys, like, who could play those minutes and get experience, but as it's turned out, I think the move for Fred, which I was not a fan of at first, has panned out. As I think as a veteran in the locker room, he's really made an impact. And I think now he's on the trajectory where they get rid of him. So it turned out to be almost a perfect signing looking back on it. The acquisition of Fred was a 10 out of 10 move. Looking at it right now, I think.
It's an NBA champ right there.
True. Were you guys a fan when it happened of them doing that, getting Fred?
Dude, I don't
Dude,
remember what I
honestly,
ate yesterday, so
I wasn't. I'm gonna be honest. When I saw it, it was just one of those things where like, all the Bulls signed Garrett Temple. Me hating right now, but like, didn't think twice about it. Not
Yeah.
at
Comparing
all.
Fred to Garrett Temple is
yeah.
nuts.
It
But
was
that's
just one of those
funny.
things where I was like, cool, nice. People move around. It's the NBA.
Yeah. It's not Brandon Ingram going to the Warriors, unfortunately, which I
Daniel,
do think would be big.
dude,
Huh?
Daniel just wants to see anybody and everybody go to the Warriors, dude. It
Yeah,
doesn't
I'm a
matter who.
dude.
Honestly, I wouldn't. That's another scenario where I wouldn't think twice about is Ingram going to the Warriors.
I have
Like,
heard
sure,
the
take him.
narrative. I've heard the narrative that Ingram is a really good passer. So maybe he would fit with them better than I originally thought.
Well, the quote that I had saw before we hopped on a pod is like it was like difference makers that could shake up the the power scale of the NBA currently, and it was Brandon Ingram and Jimmy Butler. And I kind of just thought I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess if he went to like one of the big teams that like are just really hot right now, but I don't know that I can't see him being too much of a difference maker. I just want to see him on the Warriors.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It could work. Maybe we can dive deeper into like specific scenarios for him in another episode. But they got depth. The Rock going back to the Rockets here. Tari Eason, Thompson, Whitmore, Adams, Holiday. Aaron Holiday is underrated, bro. 47% three-point shooter. Not a ton of attempts, maybe like 2, 3 a game, but
How
he's a
many
reliable
minutes does he
three,
even
bro.
play?
I don't know. Let me look it up. I'll look it up. He has been playing lately. The last game I played, he got some good minutes for them. So, um, but yeah, dude shoots the hell out of the rock, and obviously he's like Drew in the aspect that he plays really hard on defense, a very solid defender. So that's a guy, that's a guy they just have. Like that's a guy that's just on the bench, but he's averaging 10 minutes this season.
Okay.
UCLA legend.
True.
When he was there with Lonzo Ball, that team was nice.
You want to hear something weird? Why
Sure.
do Drew and Aaron Holiday look the same, like build wise, like husky wise, but then Justin Holiday is just way taller and skinny? Like, how
He
did
must
that
be
happen?
youngest.
No, I was
Justin's the
gonna say
middle.
that's why the middle child is nothing like the youngest and the oldest. Look at the Ball brothers. They're actually the
That's facts.
opposite. LiAngelo's the big dude
Yeah,
and not in the
that's
league.
funny. I don't know. I think I was talking to one of you guys about that, but it just like I'm like, why is Justin Holiday just not look like the other two? Like, why is he just different? All right, fellas. Well, to wrap it up, let's just go one by one here. Do we think the Rockets can win a playoff series? Daniel, you could start. Yes, and if you think they can, who do you think they could beat?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I'm gonna say the only the only situation I can see the Rockets winning their first playoff series is against the Warriors. Any team outside of that, personally, I don't think they have a chance.
Vic,
I'm gonna go no this year. I think next year you'll see them win.
Kev?
Yes, and they can beat anybody. I think saying they don't have a chance against any teams is malarkey and severely incorrect.
I'm gonna go yes. I think they're competitive and hungry, hard to beat. I think they could beat the Clippers, Lakers, Warriors, and I think they can beat Memphis. If they like had this series of their life, I think they could beat Memphis. It's gonna take a lot though.
They'd have to be pulling themselves by their teeth to beat Memphis for sure. That's a tough matchup.
It's health though. If
Yeah.
if one of them is missing, then they win. But if they're full health, they have a shot. Small shot, but they have a shot. GMLB family, we're starting a new series where one of our hosts will be giving a list of our top 5 current favorite NBA players to watch based on sheer entertainment value. Today's episode, we'll be going through Kevin's top 5. So he'll drop a player and give his reasons for why he picked who he did. The rest of the squadron will give their insights. Kevin, you have the floor. Who are your 5 favorite NBA players to watch right now?
Yep. So coming in at number 5, I have Jalen Duren. Always been a fan of Jalen Duren since he's came out of college. Dude just turned 21 years old in November.
It's crazy. He was the youngest in the league
Insane.
for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he got drafted. I think no, never mind. That's not going to make sense. Forget what I said. But one thing that disappoints me a little bit about him is last season he averaged 14 and 11 and a half. This season, a solid 9 and 9. So taking a little bit of a dip in the numbers. Detroit's also improved, but I like the way he impacts the game. You rarely see a young center nowadays, especially at the age of 21, play the way that he does or wants to play the way that he does. Strong. He's going to bully you. Refined Ben Wallace. Not really. I'm a fan of Jalen Duren's game. I hope he has a very, very, very successful NBA career.
Yeah, I mean, sky's the limit for him. He's only 6'10", you look at that guy and I feel like you feel like he's like 7'1", 7'2". He's just like imposing.
He just takes up so much damn space. Like his shoulders go from like one end of the lane to the other.
He's got to have like the best NBA build, or like just basketball build in general. Like long arms, long legs. He's fun to watch for sure.
Dude, if he played back in the day.
He's a pretty good lob threat too. Seen a lot of lobs with him and Cade.
True. I feel like all those, like him and Wiseman both went to Memphis. Like those Memphis guys have like just that build, man. But yeah, I mean, he's shooting. It sucks that he's shooting 58% from the line. A little Shaq-esque. Maybe he is Ben Wallen-esque in more ways than we think.
Just got to grow out the fro. He's rocking the buzz cut right now.
All right, Kevin. Who's the fourth player on your list?
Fourth player, we're going from that boy from Atlanta, Jalen Johnson. Severe improvement for just throughout all of his years in the league. Right now, he's averaging just a hair under 20 points, 10 boards flat, and 5.5 assists. The reason why I like Jalen Johnson so much is because he's kind of fitting like that modern day, like forward prototype, where he's tall, really athletic, and his athleticism like gives him an advantage, and he's an asset on both sides of the floor. I've seen a lot of people say that they get hints of Jason Tatum when they watch him play. And I don't hate that. I think Jason Tatum, when he came in the league, he was a little bit better offensively than Jalen Johnson was. He's only been in the league a couple years, still a young guy. But I really like where he's at defensively. He can board up, he can score, and low-key, he's a killer.
I really like Jalen Johnson's game, man. He's really confident with the ball in his hands. You know, he knows what he's going to do. He's either going to pass, drive, or shoot. Right away, making quick decisions. He's really good at playmaking a little bit, and with the ball in his hand, he feels like he's confident. He can. He's really good at driving, man. And when I've seen him play, I just really like what I've seen.
As a Celtics fan, I don't hate the Tatum take, and that takes a lot for me to say that. I don't hate that. If you want me to put my money on anything, no one asked me to do that, but if I were to, I'd put my money on this guy having one of the greatest NBA highlight mixtapes by the end of his career ever. Man. This dude is gonna have. I mean, we've already seen it. Like, we've seen some of his highlights. This dude's like posters are gonna be everywhere for years to come. Like, I have a lot of faith in him, and he's only 22. This guy could be sitting in a chair doing a podcast talking about NBA players like we are right now. But he made something of himself. So shout out Jalen Johnson, man.
He's also got a pretty good handle too, and he's no Kyrie, but it'll get him somewhere.
He's that modern day NBA forward prototype that everyone's looking for. Watch out for this cat.
Who did he play with at Duke? I didn't even know he went to Duke. Looking at his profile,
he was there the COVID year, but there was no fans in the stands. He got injured. He got injured halfway through the season, and decided not to come back to prepare for the draft.
So it's almost like a comeback story, almost type of deal.
Yeah, because a lot of Duke fans did not like that he didn't come back because Zion got hurt and came back, and people were like, "Oh, you're not Zion. Who the hell are you? How dare you not come back?" Hey, dude he's gonna go get himself some money in the next season or two. So good for him.
True. Fun fact of the day: Anfernee Simons was drafted directly out of IMG. I found that out the other day when they were announcing the starting lineups. Don't know why, but yeah. You can move on to your third player, Kevin. Who's third on your list? We got Jalen Duren at 5, Jalen Johnson at 4. I like both those players. Both are great players, but who you got at 3?
So from 3 up until this point, we're done with the Jalens. All right, at number 3, I'm going to have to go with Isaiah Joe for one of my favorite players. Absolutely love watching this guy. He plays for one of the most fun teams to watch in the league right now. Dude's always ready, severely confident on both the offensive and defensive end. Had 0 points the other night, but we're not going to talk about that. Isaiah Joe, yeah. Just a guy I just love to see on the floor. Offensively, defensively, he's got it. I hope he's one of the young cats the Thunder decide to stick with in the future.
I was almost hoping you would go Jaylen Brown and just complete the Jaylens, but just a complete list of Jaylens. But Isaiah Joe, man, absolute sniper. This guy's been on my radar for a minute. I placed a bet like 3 years ago. Like the Thunder were really hurt at the time, and Isaiah Joe got the starting bid. I placed a first basket plus 1,700 for Isaiah Joe. And bro, he shot it. That ball went in and out. I almost lost my mind. And ever since then, I've been a fan. But I could tell by the body types that you've been picking. You have a type. You definitely have an NBA player type, if I've ever seen one. I like Isaiah Joe, though.
Yeah, he's really good, man. If you're playing help and you leave him wide open on the three, he's shooting it, and he's probably gonna make it. That dude is always sitting on behind the arc. With that Thunder offense, what they run is a lot of them is driving and then just kicking out if they can't get a good look. And he's a lot of time he's open.
Also a really late pick, 49th overall, steal of the draft, man. Drafted by Philly, from the Razorbacks. That's interesting. I didn't know he even went there. 49th overall, man. Absolutely. Talk about a steal. Great catch and shoot player. I mean, not much to say. He is a role player, but I do think he's one of those players that can impact literally any team he's on. Also underrated passer. I don't know if you guys have watched games. Dude can pass the ball.
I watch this guy all the time. I know. Averaging 9 points, 3 boards, 2 assists. Isaiah Joe at number 3. All right. Then at number 2 on my top 5 favorite players list to watch, I have Damian Lillard. I mean, how can you not love to watch Damian Lillard? You know, Dame Dollar, the Bucks have semi got their swagger back. They're hooping a little bit. Saw the other day they won 9 of their last 11. Don't know where that currently stands. But yeah, when this dude gets hot, you don't really see him miss. I think back to that one playoff game. I don't even know if it was a playoff game, but when he dropped like 55 on the Denver Nuggets and he made Austin Rivers get a look on his face like, yeah, I don't really think you can say too much negative about Damian Lillard here.
I could find one thing. He shouldn't be top 75.
I forgot about that.
I said what I said.
I think a lot of people say that.
But yeah, I mean, Damian Lillard, C-tier celebration with the Dame time. Actually, you know what, man? I don't know why I'm hating on Damian Lillard so hard. Damian Lillard is fun to watch, objectively, when Giannis doesn't play. When Giannis plays, it's hit or miss with bro. Sometimes he's actually horrible to watch. But when he's hot, he's one of the best players to watch. And that's undeniable. He's can shoot from anywhere, 40-foot threes. That's a bomb! I know y'all saw the clip.
Lillard, 5 to shoot. A minute and a half to play. That's a bomb!
Bro's electric. He's got one of the greatest game winners of all time on Paul George. One of the other greatest game winners of all time in the Rockets series with Dwight Howard and Chandler Parsons in them. Like, this guy was a dog, bro. I remember 2K13, my draft class, my player, always competing with Damian Lillard. So I feel like I have a long-term relationship with him through 2K.
I mean, Damian Lillard's, yeah, he's an incredibly fun player to watch. All these players, like you said earlier, I mean, I'll catch up on what I didn't say, what I didn't get to say, which is just that, yeah, these some of the players, I can't really speak for Isaiah Joe. I haven't really watched him at all, but at least with Jalen Johnson, I've seen, like you said, I've seen his clips for sure and his highlights, and he's definitely big for the Hawks. But as for Damian Lillard, he's always a good time to watch. You know, he's always impacting the game at a high level. He plays at a very intense and high speed. So I think this year especially, we'll hopefully see him pair up with Giannis and, I don't know, play efficiently. Like you said, it's hit or miss with him.
Also trained with David Goggins. W.
He really? That's
yeah,
random.
in the off season, he trained with David Goggins. There's a video of it.
That's kind of cool. I mean, David Goggins is just going everywhere, huh? He trained with Patty.
Dame and Giannis just don't know how to play together, and that sucks.
Yeah.
All right, and at number 1, favorite player in the league to watch. Got to give some credit to a Chicago Bulls player here. I'm going to go Zach LaVine. One of my favorite players in the league. He's one of those guys where when he's having his night and he's hot, he damn near, there's almost nothing he can't do. He can drive in the lane and dunk on anybody. He can hit some 30-foot threes. Zach LaVine just improved his game so much from the time he was a rookie to now. Getting back to his old self a little bit after the injuries and after getting paid. Could possibly leave in Chicago, so I'm going to enjoy him while I can. Dunk on anybody, shoot the three. Zach LaVine is going to be number one for me. Shout out Chicago.
Bro wants to ditch the Bulls so bad. He finally started playing good.
And I don't think he's still getting that like trade value worth it though. But yeah, I mean he is fun to watch when he's healthy and everything. But as a Bulls fan, I would love to just rebuild that whole team. And I don't think he's with that timeline anymore.
Also, let's just not forget to mention this. The 2016 dunk contest, one of the greatest moments, dare I say, in NBA history, like period. It's top 10. It might be like literally a top 10 moment in NBA, the entire history. Like that dunk contest was sensational. Bro did an East Bay from the free throw line. Like, huh? Like, bro, I don't even know if I could do that on a Tykes hoop. Like, I'm not even playing. Like, dude, that's tough. On a 10-foot hoop, he's like, what, 6'5"? He's a 6'5" guard. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's just so crazy, too, because maturing is realizing that he definitely won that dunk contest.
Facts. I'm with you. Anyone who says Aaron Gordon shouldn't have won, bro,
15,
gotta watch ball.
I mean, 15-year-old me said that, but now that I'm older, wiser, I'm like, yeah, he won.
Yeah, watching this dude work in the mid-range it's a pleasure to my eyes. It's fun to see this dude just cook. Seeing him and DeRozan was a little too much mid-range for my eyes, but seeing Zach LaVine, bro's just got a smooth game. I wish they gave the Paul George song to Zach LaVine. I think he's more deserving of it, like low-key, like low-key. I don't think that's a hot take. Yeah, I'll need to watch more Zach LaVine.
I feel like he just plays a little bit sharper than PG. Slightly sharper. I don't know. Certain moves he does, I feel like he's quicker, like directionally than Paul George does. Paul George has got like a tight string around it. Versus LaVine, it seems like he's cutting. I don't know.
LaVine just LaVine will dunk on you though still, bro. Like, oh, yeah, he's raw. All around game. Love to see it. Any honorable mentions?
Yeah, honorable mentions. I had Herb Jones, one of my favorite defenders in the league, one of the best on-ball defenders in the league, and Darius Garland, who's improved so much from his rookie year. Just everything I'd want in a point guard, Darius Garland has it. And everything I'd want in a defender, Herb Jones has it. So I had to throw those two boys in there.
Yeah, good picks. Garland's been really fun this year. Shout out the region, too. He's from up here. Go ahead, Vic. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying they're both solid. I like Darius Garland a lot. Big fan of his game.
The hometown hero for us. Damn near. All right, fellas. Any final comments on Kevin's list? No comments. All right, let's move out. GMLB family, we thank you all for being here. And we thank you all for once again tuning in to an episode of Good Morning Let's Basketball. We thank you guys again for 2,000 subscribers. It's been a ride. And we would appreciate a like on the video or subscribe if you enjoy the content. We're also on Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, Apple Podcast, and Spotify if you enjoy the audio-only experiences or short versions of our clips from this podcast, if you couldn't make it for the whole time. And as always, fans, we are looking to interact with you guys live on the pod. Email us at gmlbfans@gmail.com. Ask us anything basketball. We look forward to answering all of your questions. And with that being said, fellas, closing thoughts before we get out of here for the night. I have a pickup basketball game to attend right now. Let them know. What are you guys doing in the meantime before next episode?
Gonna watch the in-season tournament. I'm gonna go the Mavericks winning it all.
Knicks.
I like both those picks. I'm gonna go Knicks. They figured it out. Knicks.
Daniel, the pressure's on.
I'm gonna go Mavericks.
Neither of them are gonna win. Watch.
Yeah, it's gonna be the Hawks.
Or like the Warriors, probably. After seeing what Draymond did the other night, I would not be surprised if it was the Warriors. With that being said, GMLB family, we appreciate you all for tuning in. And with that being said, we're out of here. Peace.